All right, and we are now live. So I hope everyone's doing well today. I just want to take the opportunity here to introduce and welcome our guest today. We have Rich Hill. Rich is the creative director for Sally Dark Ride. You're in Jacksonville, Florida. Is that right, Rich?
That's correct. We are in North Florida. Yep.
North. Okay.
About 2 hours north of Orlando.
Nice. So I gotta ask, what's the weather like there?
It's kind of bad today. It's a little overcast. We're starting to see some weather come through, but that's okay. It's been nice the past few days. So
okay, well that's good.
Take it.
So,
bad.
Yeah. Bad in Indianapolis terms might be different than Florida terms, but even still. So, well, thanks so much for joining us today, Rich. What I would love to do is really start out by hearing a little bit more about your story.
Sure.
How did you get started in the industry? What drew you into the theme entertainment industry, even just to kind of start out?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been a fan of theme parks since I was a kid, like many people in this industry. My parents took me to theme parks as a kid. I spent summers in Myrtle Beach with my grandparents. So, going up and down the strip, and Pavilion Amusement Park was one of my hangouts, and going to Disney, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was like, I couldn't ride that enough. That was amazing to me. I always loved, Ripley's Believe It or Not. Like, my parents would have to drag me out of there crying, that was one of my favorite things. And I've just always been into kind of weird things and entertainment, entertainment for guests that are, wide ranging, family entertainment, I think is always something that I've been into. I love, throwing parties and, theming them, and going to festivals and helping out at festivals to theme them. I'm, into music a lot, so growing up, I've grown up in that atmosphere. So, I think that all of those things kind of lead you to creating environments that can entertain guests, and that's ultimately what we do, whether you're making roller coasters or dark rides or walkthroughs, laser tag, haunted attractions, whatever it is, you're ultimately creating these environments that you want to bring guests into and just blow their minds, and however you do that, whether it's through, an IP, you want to make SpongeBob, the most SpongeBobiest SpongeBob you can, or if you want to, have Freddy Krueger, rip the face off of somebody. Those are two ends of the spectrum, but they all really, come from the same kind of emotional place where, it's the heart of the designer that, they want to bring something to the guests that one speaks to the fan base, speaks to what they expect to see. And then another, do something new with either the IP or, pretty much everything is IP in my opinion. Even if you're creating a completely new character that's haunted, scary guy, Haunt is an IP, in my opinion, so, since I was a kid, I loved exploring. I grew up for a short while on the Chesapeake Bay and had access to kind of this peninsula out on the Chesapeake Bay. I used to go explore with my friends back there, and we found, like where an old house used to be, and now there's a basement, like a stone basement, and trees falling down into it, and we climb down in there and go hunt lizards. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, those are moments, kind of iconic moments as a kid that I remember, and I want to bring those kind of moments to guests in a theme park, like in some form or fashion. It's those surprising, amazing moments. And so, I was always an artist. As a young vandal, I did a I was a skateboarder and a graffiti artist. So, I spent my time in the streets, and so, was always a big artist. And then trying to figure out what I was going to do after high school. I was in my art class and they had a guest speaker come in from the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. And they just blew me away with their speech, talking about doing special effects for movies and writing scripts and the cinematography and all this stuff that, I thought, wow, I could create worlds for movies, and I thought that was going to be my jam. But I ended up going to Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and while I was there, I started to see, I loved practical effects and animatronics, and I started to see those go by the wayside. I started to see CGI effects take over, and so I was researching, well, where are practical effects still done, animatronics and sets and scenery and things, and it turns out theme parks. So I went, wow, I love theme parks, and I never thought of doing that. And I didn't even really know that was a thing. I knew that there were dark rides and there were roller coasters, and they had story and theme, but I never thought about the people that made that. I guess. Yeah. And but really, I turned my focus to that. And after I graduated from Art Institute of Pittsburgh, I moved to Orlando and got a job with Disney and worked for them for a little while. And then got a job with, I really wanted to specialize in just animatronics, because that was, I just loved making fake things look real is another kind of aspect of my strange personality. And so I started working with a company called Kinetics, and they did like all the rainforest cafes. If you've ever gone to those, I worked for them for about 3 years and built, I don't know how many elephants and crocodiles. And
how many dinosaurs did you build, Rich? Yeah,
so many. And then I started my own company and had that for about a year, working with Cedar Fair and Universal, and did some stuff for Seuss Land, some sculpting and stuff. And then I got really tired of that, because it is so much more work to have your own company. There's entrepreneurs out there, like, I really feel for you, because I got so sick of doing napkin bar sketches, and driving, so many miles. I think I put 60,000 miles on my car in 1 year. And I got so sick of doing that, that there was a new project coming up here at Sally. And I was actually talking to one of my suppliers would always feed me. They would say, oh, these people are ordering a lot of supplies. You should talk to them. I think they have a project going on. So that's how I would kind of get some of my leads. Little trick of the trade for you guys. Yeah. And so then I came up to Sally and I said, I'd love to work on this project with you. They said, great. And they said, but really, we need somebody full time. I said, great, because I would love to get out of what I'm doing right now. And I'd never been to Jacksonville before. And I spent about a month staying here before I actually accepted the job, and just fell in love with the town. We have a city, we have oceans, we have rivers, and that was almost 24 years ago that I took the job, and I've been here ever since. And so, so worked my way up from a art finisher to now creative director. And yeah, it's been a wild ride.
So in regards to, obviously you really had a passion for animatronics, but obviously your background's not engineering, right? So it's obviously, having gone to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, it's much more on the artistic side. What did you do to prepare yourself in regards to, getting ready for the world of making animatronics? Because obviously that's much more fabrication, I'm guessing.
Sure. So the Art Institute of Pittsburgh at that time was one of the only schools in the country that taught animatronics. And so my actual degree is called Industrial Design Technology. And so I majored in animatronics, as weird as it sounds. I majored in animatronics and I minored in CGI animation. And so back then, that was literally the first that was when 3D Studio came out. It wasn't even 3D Studio Max. That was 3D Studio.
Before the Max. Yeah.
That was when it first came out. Yeah. And so I actually figured out back then that I loved animation too. I actually took to it pretty well, but then I kind of set that aside until maybe 10 years ago when, we started to put CG animation into our dark ride attractions. And I went, oh, hey, break out those old notebooks, and these don't apply anymore because they're way past that. But yeah, I definitely jumped back in, and so now I direct animators. I don't do animation myself, but I do design in 3D, and so has come in helpful.
So I have more questions about your own aspirations, but let me put a bookmark in there and just like reiterate what you just said. There is a place for animators in the themed entertainment industry, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got animators in the room, so.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Huge. I mean, I work with tons of animators. I work with a lot of people in California, some in Orlando, some in Belgium. We've got a lot around Eastern Europe. There are a lot of companies that actually specialize in dark ride and themed entertainment animation. Yeah, some really talented folks there.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate you saying that, because obviously Mark and I talk about this, right? We've talked to Bill and others that have been in the industry for a while doing this type of work, but obviously it's one thing coming from us, it's another thing coming from someone who's doing it every day, and you're actually working and interacting with animation. How do you, obviously you've got kind of a multidisciplinary approach, it seems like, in your own career path, right? With interests in animation as well as in probably the fabrication side. How do you feel like that serves someone as they're looking at getting into the industry?
Yeah, I think it's so important. I think it seems like a lot of people that are just breaking into the industry want to start at the top. I want to write scripts for dark rides. I want to be a director, and you're really doing yourself a disservice. It is so much better to come in as the guy that paints the flats and gets to know, kind of has a good work ethic and gets promoted for that, and then goes into, now you're punching hair in the face of the robot that talks in the queue line, and you do so well at that they move you into this other thing, and getting to know, especially me, like here at Sally, like getting to know the entire team, and them seeing me, I've been in the ditches with these guys. I've fallen in the holes on installs and busted my chin open and had to be taken to the hospital. And, there's all these life lessons that you gain by going through, these different disciplines. And then when you are finally to the point where you can direct what's happening, you're more in a director position. What's going on. You know how hard to push those different teams, and where their rub points are, and what excites them. That they like doing this kind of thing, but they don't like doing this kind of thing, and you can design those things into your attraction, because they're going to come out better. It really is so important just to not limit yourself and think, I just want to be a designer, but you don't know how to build anything. Like I really think that it's important to if you want to design, try and build something that is like the thing you're going to be designing. And so many times I've figured out shortcuts or just better ways to do things by say I want to build a coffin that opens up, it's animated with pneumatics. I start building it, and well, I don't know how to do any of that stuff, so I'm going to get on YouTube, I'm going to watch some things, I'm going to learn about it, and pretty soon I could design my own coffin. I can not only build my own but design it. And it's it is important to me in my mind. And there are a lot of people that are great designers that haven't built a whole lot of stuff, and they're just, that wasn't my path.
The next part of this class will be coffin building with Rich Hill.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a horrible woodworker.
Can I set up for that?
Yeah, sure.
Let's go.
Go ahead, Alana. There you go.
My mom is into carpentry. I have only done ceramics, so I don't know if we'd actually get a coffin by the end of it. Just a warning.
Right.
That's great.
So now you're obviously, obviously being at Sally Ride, being in the role you're in, give us the pitch real quick. What does Sally Ride do?
Sure.
What is your main focus in the industry? How do you interact with other companies? And then what is your specific role within the company currently?
Sure. Yeah. So we are storytellers at heart. We are there to tell guests stories and deliver those stories in any way possible with any medium possible. It could be a stage show with animatronics that come out and perform for you while you're seated. It could be a walkthrough attraction that tells guests story in a linear format that you literally define your speed by walking. It could be a roller coaster that you are on a roller coaster and it's something like a Gringotts or something where there's tons of practical sets and scenery and animation that tells a story. But it could be a very traditional dark ride that's on a flat surface with you're indexing guests into scenes and on a trackless system or tracked. But what we do as a company is tell stories to guests and deliver those amazing stories that you can't get in a theater or like a Gringotts or something where there's tons of, hey, I'm hearing myself twice. So second part of your question was?
Yeah, tell me more about what your specific role within.
Absolutely. So I literally have the best job in the world. And I'm actually being modest there. Like I am so lucky. I get to really define our attractions from day one. So I will meet with the client, talk to them about what they want. Do they want a dark ride? A show, just an animated figure, that type of thing. And they give me the parameters. I generally will, I'm the creative director. So I will direct all of the creative team to basically put my vision into reality. And we do that. I generally get to design the building, the ride layout. I get to write the scripts. I get to write the treatments. Basically I take it from a very rough, creative, conceptual format, and then I deliver that to the various team members, whether it's different companies that we work with or various team members in our company here, and then I watch them as they develop those, as they add detail to those various attributes of an attraction, and then get to go on site and direct it through testing, programming, installation, and then opening. And so I'm very lucky in that I started out priming sets and scenery, but now I literally get to create a vision and then have a huge team that delivers it. And I couldn't be luckier, to have such amazing people that I get to work with every day that trust me, for one, because it's a lot of trust for somebody to come up with some crazy idea and then you have to suffer through all of these decisions that I've made. But I suffer with you and we figure them all out together, and so that's basically my role.
Well, and seeing, let's say, a dark ride come together from beginning to end, right? It's from initial blue sky and concept through development to installation. What are some of the primary disciplines that you see engaging in the creation of this? Because obviously we already talked about animators, but who else?
Yeah, there's engineers. Safety is on top of everybody's mind. So engineering, safety, fire, all those things are very important. But there's painters, there's sculptors, animators, like you said. There's scenic artists, there are woodworkers. It's literally like kind of every trade you can think of in the creative arts that come together to make dark rides. They are, incredible. It's amazing the people I get to work with day to day. I might be working with somebody that is, say, a musician, and we're coming up with the theme for the background music score for the attraction. I'm working, I'm in their thing, and we're pounding drums, and I'm hitting the bongos or whatever I'm doing, like, hey, what if it sounded like this? And then the next day, I'm with our writing team, and we're talking about, some jokes. We're trying to come up with dad jokes for a pirate, whatever it would be. And it's just it's such a wide ranging, skill set, dark ride creation. And so, at Sally, we're a small company. We've only got about 40 people working here. And but to create a dark ride like Sesame Street or like Justice League, those took, like 1,000 people to build them. And it's probably, 10, 12 different companies. And luckily, we get to be at the forefront. We're the main contractor, and then we hire those other companies to expand our different departments. Our mechanical department is, 5 guys, but, they are directing a mechanical department that's doing tons of framework for sets and scenery that, is in Spain, could be, and so, yeah, it's really pretty cool, how many people get to put their hands on a dark ride.
Yeah, and I was actually, I was going to ask about that, because obviously I don't think you're doing everything in-house. You're contracting out with other companies. Are you doing individual contract work, or, freelance? What is that?
So, yeah, I mean, for let's say our Sesame Street attraction that we opened a couple of years ago, it's kind of a good case study. We got the general contract, to build the dark ride. And so then we started, designing conceptually, what is this ride going to be? How are we best going to deliver this story to the guests? And so we figure out, okay, these trackless vehicles from ETF out of Holland, ETF, they have these great trackless vehicles called a multi-mover, and they have a 6-passenger vehicle. And so, we know we want to use those, but we want to make them look like Sesame Street taxi cabs. And so we start talking with ETF. We figure out, okay, we need this many vehicles to get this much throughput, guests per hour, theoretical capacity, we deal with that. And so then once we get all of the kind of, big details worked out, then we develop a contract with them. So we contract that company to produce those ride vehicles in the vision, the design that we have created. So we'll design that ride vehicle conceptually. It looks like this, but then we give it to them, and they take it and they say, well, you change this. This would be easier if we do this. And they build that in 3D and send it back to us, and we just review back and forth like that. But and so that happens for everything. That's just the ride system. Then the media was done by a company called Bonart, and they are so we did animatics in-house and storyboards, send those to them, and then they look at it and they figure out, okay, here's the scope and here's the contract, and then we hire them, we contract them, give them one contract to do the media. And it's same for all the disciplines. Pretty much everything you look at in there is we've either done in-house or hired an exterior company to produce it under our direction.
Yeah. And I'm guessing, do you maintain a consistent number of employees, or does it shrink or expand depending upon projects? in terms?
Generally it's pretty steady. Like I mentioned, I've been here for 24 years. I'm still considered like the young guy, like there are people that have been here for over 40 years. It's crazy. And we generally keep the same crew. We try not to expand and contract based on projects. We did have to let some people go recently for COVID, not recently, but a year and a half ago, which was sad because, these people, they get to be like your family, and when you have to let people go, that's tough, but you got to do what's best for the company. So we are one of those rare companies that doesn't expand and contract. Like I came from Orlando, like I mentioned before, and I'm just was so used to, oh, this company's got the job, so we all go and work for this company. Then after the job's over, they lay us off, and oh no, this company's got to go over there. And it was so, such a breath of fresh air to come here, and they're like, basically you'll never get fired unless you're like you do something really stupid. I'm like, okay, great, that's my kind of place, So, and it's worked out so far. So, but I'm still new here, so we'll see.
New 23 years new. So I'm going to open up the floor now. I don't want to be the one asking all the questions. We've got some students here. I'd love to hear from some of the students. What questions do you all have for Rich?
Yeah, please do. Anything you want to ask me. All right, cool. So,
alrighty, I think hello, Rich.
Hey, Alana.
I am one of the animation students that Chris was talking about, and I am a little bit curious on some of like the process that comes with directing animators and how that incorporates itself into themed attraction and dark rides in general.
Sure.
How do you use animation processes in order to like enhance the experience of a dark ride or just a ride in general?
Yeah, sure. So, it's getting to be more and more. We are using Unreal game engine. We do a lot of previs in that. I do a lot of I call it Lego conceptualization in 3ds Max. So I build things out of just very general geometric shapes and kind of build out. It literally looks like a Lego model. And then I hand it to the people that have real talent in animation, and they start building it in Unreal game engine. And we'll literally build the attraction before we ever put one piece of wood out and start cutting it in Unreal, and we build it completely out of that. And then that is a tool that we send to architects, to scenic contractors, and we're able to pull elevations and plan views and section views and stuff from those models that are generated from our previs. And then, of course, a lot of our rides are fully realized real-time games. So it's literally a video game that you ride through and you shoot at stuff and you collect points and you're gaming against your fellow riders or other ride vehicles. So in our rides, we'll have massive, say, toroidal or cylindrical or flat screens, projection screens with big high gain, high lumen projectors that project, high resolution imagery, which is animated. So we'll, our animation team, whether we do it here or out of house, will produce, games that get played on the screens that match the practical sets and scenery. And so directing those people, all the in-house stuff that's really close. It's usually me and a guy that's right over there. I'm looking at him, and but then if once we get into game development for the actual attraction, the stuff that's going to be in the ride, that is usually out of house. And so say we're doing a project right now with Pure Imagination on it's called Treasure Hunt. It's a pirate ride that's going into Cannery Row out in Monterey Bay that's going to open this year. And so I'm literally was just before I got on this call is directing them through some animation. And so we get on Shotgun. It's a system online. It's a web portal online where they can share their animation. I can watch their animation. We can talk in real time, and I can make my notes. I can improve things. And Shotgun is really great for animation review. Then there's sometimes when I feel like things are getting off base. Things are going off the road. They've got all this great information, but somehow they're kind of not getting it. So in those cases, we'll do video chat just like this, and we'll pull stuff up and we'll just talk through. I'll literally get up and just act out a scene. I'll be like, the guy walks in from here, and then the Kraken comes in from this side, and the skeletal pirate comes in here, and we act it all out. It's so important to have really great communication with your animation team, because it gets off track so easy. So I love working with the animators. They're all super cool, just nice people, and I feel like they get it. They're there to entertain too. So yeah, it's pretty fun. Do you have any other like specific questions about that, or hopefully
Yeah, because like as you had stated, you use a lot of the animators' talents for like the 3D modeling, conceptualizing the ride, and then getting like a clear like walkthrough of like what the ride will be, how it'll interact. Do you also have your animators work on different like sections of the actual developed ride? Kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, it is the Avatar ride at Disney. I know they have like different screens that have animated movement. Do you get to work a lot in that as well, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, when you're designing an attraction, it starts with a lot of conceptual work, and then it goes into production animation, and that production animation is what the guests will eventually see on the screens. And that's yeah, it's a whole process though. A lot of times we'll use our previs models as as actually the starting point for our production models, and then those get developed, and the animators here, modelers, animators, will work on, generally the people here at Sally that do this work will work on specific kind of iconic pieces. Like say it's an iconic character, they'll model them in ZBrush and create the head for that character. Or say it's some signet that goes on the wall that's really detailed, and it looks like a skull with a kraken tentacles coming out of it, and I want that thing to look really cool, and I want to really spend time on that. We'll do that in house. But yeah, there's a lot of animation that goes in, even VR. We do a lot of VR previs. I love to once our conceptual model is created, be able to throw on a VR headset and sit in a ride vehicle and drive through the space and be able to look back at the things that look at all the show sides, and you get a better sense of scale and guest experience. VR is really helpful for that.
Thank you so much. That's really interesting and cool.
Yeah, no problem.
Other questions for Rich? Quentin, I know you've got to have a question on the audio side. I saw you earlier getting excited when he mentioned it.
Oh, you know me too well, Chris.
I did see him moving around. He's like, oh yeah, audio.
Yeah, I'm a music technologist here at IPUI. So I'm studying like live sound recording techniques. And my main focus, like through the certificate and stuff like that, is focusing on live sound setup and like sound effects for rides and designing like all that kind of stuff. How much of like the technology side is like determined while you are designing? You say you're just talking about the 3D renders. Like how much does the lighting get talked about, like the technology where speakers are going to be, all that kind of stuff?
All of it. And music, I attribute 50% of the guest experience to music. I think it is so important. I really do. I think that some people don't pay attention to it enough. I pay attention to it from day one. I mean, literally as I'm sitting back in my chair thinking about what this ride is going to be, I'm throwing on different, it's John Williams or it's, Hans Zimmer, or, I'm throwing on things that are just going to take me there because music is such an emotional connection and it's really so important. So yeah, we've worked with some great musicians over the years and been very fortunate to have some just great artists work with us, and we have some great artists here. We have a couple of people that have studios close by that we use for not only BGM but also Foley, VO, voiceovers, all of that stuff. It's I think of audio as it's really half of the whole deal. You can only see so much, but you have to have that music to fill it in. And scoring a ride is so important. And score is sometimes an interesting thing to think about in a dark ride specifically, because that's what I deal with. In that, it's not, every scene's not always scored. You have to think about all the mechanical aspects of an attraction and that things can happen. You can have something could happen on the load platform where, say, there's a little old lady in her walker and she's taking a lot of time to get into the ride vehicle, and it increases your dispatch rate, and now the vehicles start to pause in each scene. Well, you don't want that scored scene to now not be scored anymore. All these big hits and the lulls, those start to not make sense if you have a slight pause. So you have to think about that stuff. And so a lot of times I will have the animation linked to the music, and we're able to pause in those locations. If there is a pause on the load platform, we're able to pause out in the scenes and you pick right back up as soon as the ride vehicle starts, as soon as because sometimes you'll be in a ride, you might not even notice that there's a ride stop. But because the thing to do nowadays is, unless there's a real emergency, try not to take guests out of that experience, and so music is a big part of that. If the scene stops, but the music can continue on in some ways, that's how we design rides, and that can be a huge help, because the guest doesn't feel like, oh, I got to ride again because it stopped on that ride. Man, I didn't get a good ride. When actually they just didn't even notice that, Pirates of the Caribbean paused for a few seconds in that scene, and it was slightly longer this time because the music fills in. Music is so important too, as you were talking about sound effects. A lot of times, and this is funny because a lot of times that is an afterthought for people, especially in-car audio with the vehicle. And I feel like, and this was one of my first attractions, Justice League Alien Invasion was first ride that I really had by myself to as lead designer to come up with. And we got on site and I went, oh, we never even thought about what this car sounds like. And this is a character in the ride. It's the only character you literally touch. You're sitting inside of this character. So to give it personality, and does it have a rumbly thing? Is it zoomy like a spaceship, or does it screech when it goes around corners? Like do the brakes not work? Or there's all these things that you can give a ride vehicle personality. And so I literally made all that stuff on site, like in between times talking with people, I'd sit on the load station and I was on my laptop, working, developing, different sound effects and loading them into the ride vehicle. And then I'd ride around. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really work. Or ride somewhere, wow, that's really cool, and so I love doing that, because I'm sure you get into those moments where you're like, hunting for that perfect sound effect. And I've literally taken a microphone and put it on my truck and driven around the park like a theme park parking lot, trying to get my rental car to sound, and then I bring it in, I'm like, hey, that was pretty cool. That kind of works, Yeah, it's like rental sound, like rental car sound on the Justice League dark ride. So, but I love sound. Yeah, if you have any other questions about audio, I love that part.
No, it's just really funny because right before this call, myself actually, I currently have on my computer that I'm doing this on 10 sound bites of chains dropping for sound effects
I know
that
you're
I'm sending
saying,
on.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
it's just very, I find it very relatable.
Yeah.
So
Don't
I'm
well,
glad to hear it.
my advice to you would be don't quit until you find that perfect chain drop. Because seriously, it makes all the difference. If you just give up, you're like, well, I guess it's the best chain drop I'm going to find, then the entire attraction can be affected. That's the mentality that you have when you're doing these things. Is you have to inspire that with other people. Like, man, go for that cool chain drop, because it affects everything. It's ripples in a pond.
And Rich, I think you guys might need to do some work on the Haunted Mansion, because I have been stuck in the graveyard for 15 minutes and I could clearly tell I was stuck there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I got stuck last time. I got stuck in the graveyard, and they let us evac, and I got to walk through like and I've got my phone, and I'm like, and the lady's like, oh, you can't film in here. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. And I'm like, put it in my pocket so the camera's sticking out, like walking around like, yeah, and that's what that is.
Yeah, there's a couple of those out there,
horrible.
right? So see some of those rudimentary pop-up animatronics, right? So
they're awesome. Yeah, I mean, such classic stuff. Like, yeah, they're just classic. Yeah, we've fortunately had a chance to do a little bit of stuff with that company on some things that might be similar to that, and in the past, and it is so cool. I mean, some of the stuff is crudely made. I mean, it's made back. It's been a long time since, and some of it hasn't been touched since the 50s or 60s. So, but it's still like the artistry that went into it. You can see, Mark Davis in this thing. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Looks like Josh is one of our faculty members as well, who teaches one of our themed entertainment classes. He's got a question right now, so I'll let him go.
Cool.
Yeah, I have a burning question. So in my classes recently, I've noticed, and actually on our innovation challenge as well, I found that students sometimes, I think one of the hardest phases is getting out of the blue sky. So they think it's real, all the idea creation is really fun, but especially when there's a couple really good competing ideas, I'm curious to how do you guys manage that? Does someone just decide, like, how do you narrow down and decide which idea to go with, but also kind of keeping the people whose idea they didn't choose, keeping them happy and engaged? Just how do you guys deal with that kind of thing?
Sure. So we recently, so we've always struggled with that, and it's a struggle around the world. I think other planets probably a struggle, but what we did recently, about 3 years ago, we created the Sally Attraction Development Team, right? ADT. And so when a new project comes in, it's assigned a lead designer, and then that person takes it and calls a design charrette between team members, and these are people, not just designers, but like everybody in the building. Like, if you guys are interested, want to contribute, but you're encouraged to contribute, come, we're going to have a design charrette, half day design charrette. We're going to talk about this project. And just understand that, say if I'm the lead designer on this project, just understand when you come here and you throw these ideas out, every idea is totally acceptable. We want to hear every idea, but I'm going to be the decider of which ideas make it into the final script or treatment or narrative. Yeah. And it's just got to be that way. You got to have somebody that, designed by a committee. It just doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It's so helpful to have somebody with one vision and understanding, what the client's parameters are, what the entire team's, all their creative, juice that they throw out there, how is it gonna fit in the client's parameters? You know what I mean? Because someone might say, oh, well, I think it should be a space ride where, you know, Daffy Duck comes down and shoots Pluto or whatever. And you're like, okay, well, you know, this is going into the Wild West section of the park. So how does space, you know, and that's the lead designer's job too, is to dredge that, you know, say someone comes up with the space Pluto Disney whatever ride, you say, okay, well, how does that, you know, I see a problem with that in that it's going into the Wild West section. So how would you see space fitting into the Wild West? Would it be Cowboys versus Aliens? Remember that movie? You know, you dredge from things that are in that people know about, you know, and then try to lead those creative ideas into a direction that's going to fit in the client's parameters, if you will. And then you all separate, and then you write your treatment, whatever it is, and you send it to everybody that's on the team, and you congratulate everybody for their thoughts, and you don't single anybody out as you know, well, yours was the best, but and you know, yours sucked, you know. You just, we're all part of that creative team, and so while it might be my words that get onto the page, it's everybody's thoughts that help, that contribute to it, and that's so important, you know. But then you know, you've got to live and die by those decisions, because now, say if it's me, I've got to carry those for the next year and a half while they're developing this ride before it opens, and you've got to fight them, you know, you've got to fight to keep this creative vision in place, because you know, it can get pretty hairy, you know, after those decisions have been made. Yeah.
And that first treatment that comes out, is that a script? What do you call that? Is that an outline? What does that kind of look like?
I usually call it a show narrative. You know, some people call them show treatment. I call it, you know, sometimes initially I'll call it a concept brief. And those could be as simple as one paragraph, you know, and a lot of times, you know, generally the way that I've kind of refined the process into doing it is I'll write, say, 3 concept briefs and send those to the client, and they're wildly different. And then the client will say, pick 2 of those. And then I take those 2 and develop those into a full page concept narrative. And then they will go through those and they say, well, we really like this one. And then we develop that into a full, you know, it's probably 4 or 5 pages. And that's really show treatment. But it just depends on what, you know, where you're looking at it, what part of the process that what you call it.
At what point do you start to share visuals with the client, like in the first treatment and the concept, or when it gets more fully developed?
You know, it's usually after you know, it's so hard to say. Usually I like to throw them like 3 paragraph, you know, it just has all the major story beats in a paragraph. You know, if you can't explain what a dark ride is in 2 sentences, yeah, like throw it away. Because I guess, you know, you have to be really quick with it. But I'll do it generally after that first treatment. You know, once we get into you know, the concept brief stage, where it's like a page per idea, I try to throw in some mood board images at that point, and I just pull stuff from the internet, you know, and you know, and I just throw stuff up. Always let them know that these are mood board images. These are not things that I drew, or, you know, these are complete, do not share these are not for sale. And but you know, mood board images are a great way to kind of get your style look across, character looks, scenic locations, that type of thing across. And then once those are kind of basically approved, we've decided the thing is going to be in the Wild West, we're going to have the spaceship come down and this and that and the other, then we start doing some sketching and you know, just real loose stuff at first, and then eventually get into, you know, full key art where it's basically, you know, movie poster quality. But yeah, it's a process, and more we're doing a lot of that, you know, pre-visualization without sketching, just going straight into 3D models. You know, it is so easy now with Unreal to have a Unreal library that you can pull from. Geez, it's so easy to cobble together, you know, some concept art using that. It's amazing. But we still use traditional art all the time too.
You
So
do
we
any
have-
SketchUp either, or just?
What's that? Sorry, I missed the beginning of that.
I was wondering if you use SketchUp at all either, or you just go straight into the
A little bit.
advanced 3D?
Little bit. Yeah, SketchUp doesn't play too well with the programs that we've got. Doesn't play real well with 3ds Max and Unreal and AutoCAD. It's a little, I don't know, it works okay, but we've just got different systems. We're just.
So we have about
Awesome.
7 minutes left. I want to see if there's any other students that have any burning questions.
Yeah, let me know. Anything crazy.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
One, I follow Don Carson quite a bit, and he talks about using Blender to create any assets he may needs, and then he'll feed those into Unreal. Do you guys have a preference on what you may use to create specific assets when you're just in the previs phase? And when does Lost Island theme park open? Do you have do you know any
everyone's
dates about that?
I can't comment on dates of opening, but I will
Okay.
say that I am flying there next week to go ride it. A final version of our dark ride, Volcanoon. That's going to be
Awesome.
It's all right, Rich.
Yeah.
You can tell us in the rest of the world. We're only live.
Yeah, I know, right?
So
Um,
But
yeah,
but
we
as
saw
far
that.
as- yeah,
We saw
go
that at IAPA, and really excited to check that out sometime.
yeah, it's awesome, and that was designed by my co-patriot here, Drew Hunter, and he's an amazing, and he's the lead designer on that project. Yep. So I didn't have much to do with it at all, but I'm going to get to go and experience next week his amazing work and ride it in person, which is like, it's the best thing ever, getting to ride a ride before anybody else. But anyway, so about the programs that you use, or that we use, Blender not so much, but we've used Mudbox in the past, ZBrush a lot, 3ds Max. We do a lot of our architectural stuff with Revit, and I personally do a lot with 3ds Max, just because I'm just used to it, and so like I said, just building my little Lego models and throwing it to the team. But then, our engineering, architectural side, we'll use Revit, and then our creative side, we'll use ZBrush, Maya, and working in Unreal more and more. Unreal is really just getting incredible with the tool set they have. It's amazing. I might throw everything away and just use that, or write my scripts in Unreal. I don't know. It's crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much what we use. I mean, we also use Photoshop and Illustrator and all that kind of jazz, to spice things up. But I actually do a lot of animating also. Is crazy. But in a Premiere, like the video editing, I used to do more than I do now, but I used to do a lot of my previs animating with Premiere, because you can import Photoshop files that have PNGs or PSDs that have no background, and you can slide them across each other with your keyframe. And it's just like Flash animation, but like super easy, and you get a timeline. It's so weird, but people like see me doing that. They're like, "What are you using?" I'm like, "I don't know. It just works. I know how to video edit, but I don't know how to do anything else. So this, whatever works for you, really,
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Anybody got anything else? Got 3 minutes.
Oh, come on. I could probably name.
I've got a quick question for
Go
you.
ahead, Lana. Yeah.
Minor amusement. Since like these projects are really big and like a lot of people work on them, do a lot of the people who work on the projects get to see like the completed ride or dark ride before opening or just like get to experience everything that they've worked on?
That's the sad part is no. I mean, that
Oh.
is one just is such a shame. And that, I mean, we would love to fly the entire team out and, but then that would like, it would probably cost more than what the ride costs. Like,
Something they just have to do in their own time then.
yeah, I mean, there's YouTube. We always try and do a follow-up where we film the entire attraction and try and bring everybody in to watch it. And recently we flew the entire company we bussed the entire company up to Six Flags Georgia and rode one of our Justice League attractions and made a day out of it. And it just really is such a shame that even the people that work on it on site, a lot of times they leave before it's finished, and it really is a shame. But anytime we're fairly close, we did a ride for Legoland Florida, and again we bussed the entire company over to ride that ride. But if you're doing something in Spain or you're doing something in Australia, like it's really tough to do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking all the cool questions. Good.
Any other final questions? We got 1 minute left.
I have a really quick question.
I knew Grace would.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What is when you're working with a client, the back and forth with that client? How much are you in contact with them throughout the whole process?
I'm in contact with the whole team the entire time. I mean, there is literally nobody on the team that I don't have weekly conversations with. At least the leads for the entire team. And it's really important. Like my job is literally communication. Hardly any of what I do is actual artwork anymore. It feels like I'm like I get to do some cool stuff at the beginning, and then I'm just like talking to people and explaining, what is that thing supposed to do in that scene, and why does it look like that, But communication is really important.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Grace. Sure.
Well, Rich, I want to be respectful of your time. It is 5 o'clock. It's Eastern Standard Time, so it's been 1 hour. Thanks so much for spending the time with us. I know it takes time out of your day to connect with students and spend time with us, and so we really, really do appreciate you doing this with us today,
Sure.
and answering our questions.
Yeah, no problem, Chris. I really appreciate you asking and you guys being interested in what I do, and the fact that you are taking that first step and going into themed entertainment. I mean, I'm sure you've taken many other steps that are going to excel you and propel you into this great industry that we have. But taking that legit first, enrolling in school, going to class every day. If you're in Indiana, it's like going through the snow. I mean, like it's tough, and it is you have to trudge through it. But trust me, it is going to pay off, and this is the best industry you can possibly work in. It is so fun. I've never met cooler, more interesting people than I have in this industry, and like I said, you get to work with such a wide variety of people. It's really something special. So have fun, and literally hit me up. Just so you have my email address, I'm putting it out there. Everybody can have it. This is not a secret. rhill@sallydarkrides.com. And that's plural, Sally Dark Rides. But seriously, hit me up anytime you guys want advice, just want to chat. It's really no big deal to me. This is part of my thing. I love talking with people, and because we might be working together someday, and I want you to be like, man, remember that cool time you gave me that advice? And so awesome. Well, thanks so much,
Rich.